The more that I learn about the bike industry, the more I'm worried about it, in the sense that it isn't quite what it seems at times. For instance, and you can tell from the title of this video, Euro 4, or the problem that is Euro 4. You see, basically Euro 4 is just a government, European legislation as to what a bike has to be, or has to have. And the way that this is ascertained is, for instance, in the UK, there's a committee called the ACEM something, I can't remember right now, it doesn't really matter, but the fact is, now they're the ones that make the suggestions as to what bikes in the future should have. Now Euro 4 can be summed up to two things, basically. One, the bike must be fuel injected. The reason they're doing that is it's more environmentally friendly to have an injected bike than a carb bike, because carb bikes have a habit of just dumping a load of fuel. You're burning more of the fuel that's going in, so you have less emissions, etc, etc. It's yeah, I get it. But then they added in all bikes must have ABS, or linked brakes. I think it's all bikes have to have ABS, and if it's below, I think it's 125s and 50s can have linked brakes instead. They might offer that in the larger sizes. It doesn't matter. The point is, 125s now have to have ABS or linked brakes. On the face of it, that seems like a great idea, and I get that it is safer. But there's a couple of things that really worry me about that. That committee that decided that they needed to put ABS or linked brakes onto all bikes, like 125s. The three highest people, like the chairman and the something, blah, 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 they all work for BMW. All of them. So they have a massive monopoly over the chair people of this committee. Now, wouldn't it just be funny if it turns out that BMW has ABS or link brakes across their entire range? So to implement that is no problem to them, because they don't have a problem with it. They don't make 125s. As far as I know, they might be making one in the future, but the point is they don't at the moment. It doesn't affect them. Now look at the other smaller manufacturers like, Lexmotor or Sinis, all these people. They now have to produce a bike in this year, which they've done, which is now, instead of being carbed, it's fuel injected. With that comes a cost. And they have to put ABS systems or linked brakes on the bikes, and that comes at a cost, and that means that the bike at the end of the day to the person buying it costs more, which is why you've seen the costs of the Chinese bikes increasing. And I've seen people saying, oh, they're not even that cheap anymore. Trust me, they're cheaper than the alternatives, because even the other manufacturers are going to have to put money on top of what they were charging, because they've put more equipment on the bike. Here's where it gets kind of fishy again. Who do you think makes the majority of the ABS systems for bikes? Bosch. Oh, would it be that the people at BMW and Bosch are quite pally? No, that's just, I doubt that's the case. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. No, of course, that sort of stuff never happens in business, clearly. So what it means is the cheaper bikes are getting more expensive, and the other thing is, let's think about the practicalities and the simplicities of this, okay? So you're 17, 18, you have a 125 like a supermoto or a scooter or something, and you want to do a skid. And we all know that you love doing skids. Fucking hell, I'm 31, I love to do a skid on a 125. I love messing around. I like having full control over what brakes I use, etc, etc. However, because of the ABS system on a smaller bike, it's back £200 on top of the price, versus a few quid having a linked system. And if you don't know what this is, basically ABS means anti-lock brakes. It means that you pull the brake as hard as you like and it won't lock. Now some people don't like ABS on any bike because they don't trust it, because it means that no matter how hard you pull that brake lever, you can't have maximum braking force. And there have been examples of people, needing to brake in a very, very quick distance, and the ABS just flutters and it doesn't properly brake, and it doesn't brake in a shorter distance that it should in theory be able to do, because you can really pull the brakes on harder than gradually applying them so you don't lock up with manual brakes. And then you have the linked systems that are a lot cheaper, and you are going to find on more 125s and things, and you do find them on big heavy bikes as well, because it's good in a way. But the fact is, kids want skids, okay? they want to mess around on their 125s. So what's going to happen? Well, they have link brakes. That basically means that they pull the front brake and the rear brake goes on at the same time. Or you try and put the rear brake on and you get front brake as well. That makes it very difficult to like skid around on a bike. Little Timmy is annoyed that he can't do skids now. And he's like, oh, it's so annoying, it's these linked brakes. Hold on a minute. The braking systems are entirely independent apart from one tube that runs between the two of them, or I presume it's one tube. The basic's an extra brake line between the front and the back. If you remove this, you remove the link brakes. MOT wise, I'm pretty damn sure it would be completely legal, because it's not an MOT requirement, it's a requirement of the legislation of manufacturing bikes. You know, in the same way that the number plate has to be behind the rear wheel for legislation, is thrown out the window for MOT, because it doesn't matter. You can just put a tail tidy on it, like the RNG one I've got on this, and bish bash bosh, there you go, it's fine. So there are like blanking kits to remove the linked brakes, and I haven't physically seen a linked braking system. I wonder if they recognise me, or if it was just some random. I'd imagine it is just a link tube that allows pressure to get through to the second set of calipers, which is why you get, on the scooter for instance, the Lex Moto, you pull the front brake and you get mostly front and a little bit of rear. Well, it's actually about, I think it's about 60 front, 40 rear, and probably the reverse on the rear. So it means that here's the thing that got me, I thought it was gripping really well, and then suddenly remembered no Euro 4. When I yank the back brake, it puts the front brake on as well. So as I say, little Timmy, he's a kid and kids want skids. So what are they going to do? They're going to take this system off. And they may not know what they're doing. They may not be very mechanically minded. You know, they are, the people that are going to get these things are the newest riders, because they're 125s and stuff. Little Timmy, who wants some skids, deactivates his linked braking system badly, and then when he goes to pull his brakes, they don't work. He gets a load of fluid squirted out underneath his bike, the brakes don't work, and he slams into a wall and he's dead. But manufacturer man says, but what do you mean? Who's going to touch a linked braking system? Every younger guy who wants to mess around on a bike, because skids are fun, okay? So yes, if you're riding the bike around completely normally, you're not trying to do anything with it, you know, you're just going A to B. Link brakes are great. I don't see a problem with them. You know, it's a really solid way of braking. It feels very positive. And the brakes on the little Lex Moto to get you from, you know, 30 to 0, good. Very impressed by them. However, as I say, the reality of it is, if you bought something like the Adrenaline or one of the little Supermotos or something like that, and you want to go off-roading, you don't want link brakes, because it means you don't really ever use the front brake when off-roading. It's all about the rear brake and engine braking. Now, if you've got knobblies on the front, well, you can use the front brake a bit. But if you've got road tyres, don't touch the front brake. You'll come off. All that happens, you slam the front brake, the steering goes like that, and then you just deck it. It's just the way that it is. So as I say, there are things that really worry me. The fact that the whole body, the committee, which basically makes decisions for what we want, just BMW pretty much, and they seem to be making it fit what they have. And I really don't think it'll be long before we were going to see the average price of a 125 being 3 to 5 grand. And frankly, that is ridiculous. And that's why I support the Chinese bikes, and it's just kind of shitty that they're kind of getting a bit of a bum deal because the bigger guys help for themselves. I mean, this is just my opinion, obviously. This isn't a fact. I don't want to be sued by anyone. As I say, I've ridden bikes with ABS, and I've had emergency braking situations on 2 ABS bikes that weren't mine. And I was massively impressed by the ABS. So ABS on bigger bikes, I have no problem with that. I get why it's there, and I would want to spend the extra few £100 that it adds on to the cost of the bike to have it. I think. Maybe, I mean, you know, you hear some scary stories of ABS, but I think they're the old systems and things have progressed a bit. But requiring it on 125s, I know they're trying to look after the younger riders who don't have the skills necessarily, but I don't know. It just, to me, it seems like you're not allowing them to learn like they're supposed to. That's what a 125's for. I mean, you've already knocked them down on power by making them fuel injected. Yes, fuel injected does not necessarily mean it's going to have more power. I personally would rather have a carbed 125 than an injected 125 for the throttle response. And I have ridden bikes with linked brakes, and the big heavy bikes like the Blackbird and the 1600 GT that I rode. I haven't ridden the Blackbird, I'm just using an example of the bike that I know that has linked brakes. And a few of the other big heavy bikes that have got linked brakes, I totally get it. But 125s and stuff, no, it's not necessary. It really, I don't think it is. And then the added implication, which is they are going to modify it, they're going to remove it. Some of them won't know how to do it properly. Some of them will get air bubbles and won't, you know, seal the system properly, and they're going to have no brakes, and there's going to be fatalities because of it. I think it's almost a guarantee. And I think you will see in the next couple of years lots of videos on YouTube of, you know, how to disable link brakes on such and such. If you have a bike that you're going to do it to, for Christ's sake, film it, because other people want to see it, and show them how to do it properly. The problem there is mechanical experience. Can that be crossed over in a video? No, not really. Anyway, so there you go. Let me know what you think. It's an interesting one. Oh, there's one more thing I want to add to this that I forgot to mention in the video, and I really should have talked about this. People say things like, oh, well, you know, because of Britex, because we're leaving Europe, it means that we won't be affected by Europe's rules anymore, so we can do what we want. Well, maybe, but whenever we actually leave and when we drop what laws and we don't drop laws, that's still years away. But the bigger issue is the fact that the manufacturers are not going to make a specialised bike just for the UK. It's a tiny market. It's not economically viable for them to make one bike for Europe and one for the UK. They'll just make one for Europe and sell it to us as well. So sorry to burst the bubble for people who think the next week, you know, the European laws will be gone and manufacturers will be making bikes and not doing any of this stuff. It's just not going to happen. There you go. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like. So, people said to me, Spicy, can you make a video and explain to us what to look for when we are going to buy a second-hand bike? Now, this is a very difficult subject. Part of the main problem is your mechanical knowledge. If you have mechanical knowledge to understand what the way things should and shouldn't be, then you'll know this anyway. So I'm going to just go through what I would